All right, Shalom. First off, give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, by Shem Yahushai, by Shem Kadash, double honors to the apostles and the elders of GMS. Salutes and honors to the elect, all the brothers across the four corners who are enduring in truth and in sincerity, and the women and children who follow. So, as you can see, I have a article here about a bill that was passed recently, or that they're been talking up recently, I should say. And we talked about it on the highways, but I just wanted to go into it a little bit further. So this is from citizensjournal.us. It says the evil HR 6666 contact tracing bill. Okay, so first thing that you should notice is that the number of the bill, and it's not a coincidence that they numbered this bill 6666. It's going off that vibration of 6, and most people know that 666 is the mark of the beast. So that should jump off the page for you. So what this article is doing is basically saying, is this bill evil or is it good? So let's just go into it and see what it's talking about. Okay, so it says, for the last week or so, I've been getting emails, seeing web articles, and social media postings of warning about the totalitarian Nazi New World Order Big Brother HR 6666 COVID-19, the Testing, Reaching, and Contacting Everyone Act, or the TRACE Act. It says grants bill in Congress, not passed at this time. I even saw signs attacking it while covering Saturday's Ventura County lockdown protests. So this is people protesting. They were talking about it at that protest. It says the bill was submitted on May 1st by Democrat U.S. House Representative Bobby Rush, who's a Jake. Okay, so a Jake actually proposed this. I'll call him a coon, more of a Jake. He's still Jake, but you know how it is. It says, so I finally got around to actually reading it to see if all the fuss was justified. It says you can read it here. I recommend that everyone does. And Lord's will, I put this link in the description box. It says, so are those allegations true? Is it really evil? Well, my answer is yes and no. So he's basically giving both sides to it. And even on the yes side, it's really yes, that's evil. Or it's like on the no side, no, it's not evil. But it's a question mark there because let's just get into it. It says on the no, the idea of identifying and tracking down contacts to determine who, where, and how infections are spreading is just common sense. Finding people who are infected and or have a high probability of getting affected or infecting others even before they show symptoms is a proactive way of helping to stop or at least slow down the spread of the serious communicable diseases. It says this has already begun. This is already being done, Slakia, by the CDC, state and lower level jurisdictions for serious communicable diseases, but never on the scale, depth, and the intrusiveness of what is under a discussion now. Some say that a massive jumpstart is needed to get tracing fully implemented in the U.S. for this and future pandemics. So the last pandemic was, I think they said, like 1912 or something like that, with the Spanish flu. So 100 years later, it was probably 100 years or probably a few hundred years before that. We had the bubonic and the pneumonic plague. It was probably maybe 400 or 500 years between pandemics, which is all the people, the disease reaching all the people. That happened back in the day, like I said, with the pneumonic plague and the bubonic plague. Back in it was probably like the 1200s or something like that. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. I haven't looked into that timeline. But What they're saying is they want to set a precedent for if anything does happen in the future, that there's already something on file, basically. Even though it may not even happen for another hundred years, they want to be ready, which really doesn't make sense. But okay, I guess okay. Let me see where I'm at. It says it's good and constitutional that the states will be doing this rather than the federal government, although with legally questionable federal funding. It says there's nothing in the bill itself that supports most of the things people fear about it, but it wouldn't stop these from occurring and may even fuel them. Okay, so let's go to what it is. It said that it's not evil for them trying to do this, for them trying to um, track everybody and slow down the spread of, the COVID-19. Okay, I guess you got that one. I give that one to you. You're supposed to do what you do, but like it also said, it says, but never on the scale, the depth, and the intrusiveness of what's under discussion now, and that's a big part of it, the intrusiveness. Because when you go back to the Constitution, you have the constitutional right to deny a test. That's your right as an American, that so to speak. Okay, if you don't want to get tested, you don't have to get tested. You have the freedom of speech. You have the freedom to own a gun and to lawfully assemble, so on and so forth. And this is basically pissing on your rights, which is why a lot of people are mad because they got to stay in the house, because it pisses on their rights. If I don't want to stay in the house, I don't have to. So by mandating that, like you said up here, that testing and reaching and contacting everyone, that you be tested, that you be reached, that they contact you. Okay, if you don't want to be contacted, you shouldn't have to be contacted. And that's your right as an American. Okay, so that's why they're doing all this. That's why they're doing the so-called census, taking everyone's information, putting them down, so that they know who you are, where you're at, and they have all your information. Because when it's time to ride, it's time to ride. Okay. So let me see where we're at. Okay, so is it so? Yes, so this is a yes. It is evil. It says, while the bill objective seems noble on the surface, there is much potential for abuse. The bill has no limits or accountability built into it, and no penalties or strings for non-compliance or abuse. Okay, so if you don't comply with it, or if they want to abuse their power, there's no checks, there's no balances for that. And the so-called white man is known for overdoing it. He overdid slavery. He overdoes everything. He's bigger than his britches, so to speak. So if he empowers himself to do whatever he wants, he's gonna do however he pleases. Okay, it says hotspots where it would apply cover for half of the jurisdictions in the U.S., since half are worse than average. Some have speculated that it could be used to hunt down and forcibly remove people from their homes, and be used to help label infected people, even even false positive tested people, recovered people, and those who are no longer contagious, then brand them in a way to block their full participation in society. And that's the big thing right there. That's the elephant in the room, so to speak, because they can use this to roll on any and everybody that they choose to. We know that they have these lists, the red list, the blue list, the green list. They can use this as a um, Trojan horse, so to speak, to persecute the people on those lists, or to confirm the people on those lists. And if you ain't with it and you on this list, they can just pick you up and say, hey, well, you tested positive for it, or we have reason to believe somebody in this household has coronavirus or has been exposed to the coronavirus, and we're going to take you. And as it mentions later on in this article, all the laws that they passed in the past are still on file. So everything is still relevant. So if they wanted to use this to come in and take you through the NDAA Act of 2012, they can lawfully keep you in detention indefinitely. And they can actually take you to Guantanamo Bay and, without a lawyer or anything. And really all they got to say is, you died from corona. So let's just get a scripture, the first scripture. It says, Revelation chapter 2, verse 10. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and that ye have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. Because we do know that this devil is going to roll. There's going to come a time and a place where he's going to come down on us, and everybody is not going to make it. Okay, there will be martyrs for Yahweh Shem Yahushai, but the dead in Yahushai shall rise first. Okay, so we have to, as it says, they're going to cast some of us in the prison, but we have to be faithful unto death. Okay, we have to remain that man of the Lord that's been instilled into us. Okay, and overcome the wiles of the devil, overcome the tribulation that's going to be put before us. All right, next scripture. Oops, hold on. Revelation chapter 12, verse 12, it says, Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe unto the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. For the devil is coming down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he have but a short time. Okay, so he knows that his time is limited. So he's coming up with these ideas. He's coming up with these different um, plots and these different scenarios in which he can take over, in which he can set up his new world order, in which he can enact that mark of the beast. Because ultimately, all this is leading to the mark of the beast. That's the end game. Okay, that's where it's all leading to for everyone. Like we said on the highways, a pandemic means all the people. What does the scripture say about all the people? Um, let's just get this real quick. This is Revelation 13 and 16. It says, And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead. All right, that's what all the people are going to do. He's going to cause everybody to do. Okay, and only the elect and some people who the people who are against it, I'll say, but he's going to mandate that it be given to him. Okay, it says that no man might buy or sell, save that he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name, because even dealing with money. The coronavirus. If I had the coronavirus and I touched this $20 bill and I gave you the $20 bill, you could be exposed to the coronavirus from this $20 bill. So they want to put all the money digital. They want to go to a digital dollar or whatever it is they want to call it. But it's already been talks of a digital dollar. And with them spending all this money, we'll get into that as well later in this article. But the amount of money that it's costing for stimulus, for money for businesses, for testing, all of this is going to cause this place to go broke, man. We're already trillions and trillions of dollars in debt, and it's just going to further that agenda. But like I said, we're going to get into all of that here in due season. So let's just jump back into the article. Let me see where we at. It says, when AIDS activists were threatened with this, they raised hell and stopped it cold. Big tech companies are already developing software to track the path and the people contacted with COVID 19 infections and extrapolate who risky people are based on who they came in contact with and even where they went. It says they're using Apple and Google and they unveiled a joint effort on tools that will use smartphones to aid in contact tracing. Okay, so there you go. And who's behind Apple? Bill Gates. Who's behind um these vaccines? Bill Gates. Who owns the patent to COVID-19? Bill Gates. It's not it's not that hard. Okay, it's very simple. Okay, so let's back up here because there was some heat. It says big tech companies are already developing software to track the path and of the people connected with COVID-19 infections and extrapolate who are the people that are based on who they came in contact with and where they went. So basically, they're going to track your movements through your cell phone, which your cell phone is basically that's exactly what it is. A tracking device. It's a listening device. They're listening to this lesson as I speak. Hey, how you doing? You know, you're not going to stop this show. Okay, Yahaba Shem Yashai has a plan, and it's going in action, and you're just playing right into his hand. Because you can't do nothing against the truth, but only for it. So, as I was saying, they're gonna track you're gonna track your movements, which they probably already are, and they can probably retroactively track your movements. Okay, well, you pinged off of this tower at this time, you pinged off of this tower at that time, and see everybody else who pinged off this tower at around that time, and who else pinged off that tower around that time, and they'll come and get, hey, you know, we know that on the night of April uh, 30th, you were in the vicinity of someone who was exposed to COVID-19. So now we need you and everyone else that you've come in contact with to come with us to do this, that, and the third. And then there you go. And they're using technology. They're using these phones. They're using Google. They're using everything that they have at their disposal to get you. All right, some tech companies have proposed that people could be denied certain mobility entry, even from making purchases. Okay, so it says that. Oh, so yeah, we just gonna stop there. So deny certain mobility entry. That's so if they believe that you've been exposed, they don't have to let you into anywhere that they want to. They can keep you within the city. They can keep you in your house. They don't have to let you in Walmart. They don't have to let you in anywhere. You know, there's going to be checks and balances. That's also a form of martial law as well, because martial law can easily be set up off of that. Okay, so let's go to the scripture. This is Isaiah, Second Ezra chapter 15. I'm going to start at 17. I'm going to start at 14. It says, "Woe unto the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hands." And we visited that in the article way back at the top. You know, that's people standing up against another, man. That's people protesting. Even during this pandemic, people are protesting. Even in China, you have, before this even started, there was mass protests and shootings going on in Hong Kong. Okay, you also have the so-called Chinese treating Africans like crap. Okay, everybody's going back to their own people. Everything is going exactly as how the scriptures said it would. Okay, so let's get back into the scripture. It says, "For there should be sedition among men, and invading one another, and they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the courts of their actions shall stand in their power." Okay, so all these laws are being passed. All these officials, all these lawmakers, all these mayors and governors and representatives and senators and presidents and secretary of this, that, and the third, all of these people are trying to pass legislation. But at the end of the day, the people are going to say, fuck what you got to say. I got to get it how I live because there ain't no more meat in the store. So if I got to run into somebody, my neighbor's house to feed my kids, that's what I'm going to do. That's what it's going to come to. That's what America has to look forward to. This is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. Now we're seeing everything manifest a little bit more because at first it was just, there's no toilet paper or there's no hand sanitizer. But now that the food supply is dwindling, that's, once that food supply, I give it a couple more weeks, man. Give it a couple more weeks, maybe a month and a half or so. And once there's no meat in the stores and um, your only choice is to buy canned goods, then we're gonna run out of canned goods. And once we run out of all of this stuff, that's when it's really gonna get real. And that time is seriously approaching. It's approaching quickly. So, brothers need to prepare themselves for this type of scenario because it's rapidly approaching us. Okay, it says, verse 17, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. Okay, that's locking down the cities. That's martial law, and that's what the article just stated. And there's no regulations on it, so they can go as far as they want to. They can say, okay, well you can't go into Target, or they can say, well you can't leave Omaha. However, um, there's no reins on it. There's no limits to how big and how bad they want to make this. And they got the money behind it. They're putting in the money and they're investing in this. They're gonna. Well, it's like I said, it hasn't passed yet, but the proposal, you know, this is loosey goosey. It says for because of their pride. Oh, what the heck? Here we go. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. And that's gonna run rapid around this place. It ain't gonna be no joke. Once this for real famine hits, because we're at the beginning of a famine. Okay, we're at the beginning stages. But once we get into the meat and potatoes, no pun intended, of the famine, that's when these people are going to be desperate. It says, and a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. No breakdown needed. That's just how it's going to be. That's what's going to happen. Nobody's going to have pity upon their neighbor. They're going to run up in there and they're going to destroy whatever they have to for their family because of the lack of bread. Okay, so it said some tech companies have proposed that people could be denied certain mobility entry, even from making purchases. Like I said also before, because of the money. Okay, if you are suspected of being or having COVID-19, the coronavirus, then nobody wants to touch the money that you have in your pocket. Nobody wants to scan your card because I could potentially be exposed to it because you come in contact with that card. You came in contact with this money. That's why they want to push this agenda to a cashless society. Okay, it says via cell phone tracking, facial recognition, temperature sensing, and databases built from that tracking. Okay, so they're doing everything, man. They got all these cameras set up, so they have the facial recognition. So say I'll give an example. Say And I know you're not familiar with the streets here in Omaha, but I'm just gonna say a random street. Say if you were on 24th and Lake, okay, and Little Jojo got corona, but Little Jojo don't know he got corona. So it's you know May 8th at 12:40 p.m. in the afternoon, and you're on 24th and Lake, and Little Jojo's on 24th and Lake. Now both of your phones are pinging off that tower. So when little JoJo goes to the hospital and says, "Oh well, I have corona," and now they're gonna look at his phone pings. Oh well, he was on 24th and Lake at 12:40. Who else at 12:40 was on 24th and Lake? And that's why they have all these traffic cameras and everything set up so that they can use the facial recognition. They can use all these phone tracking um, databases and everything and put you there. Oh, you were there too. So now what? We need to come get you because you are now a danger to society. This is they've been setting all this stuff up for years. Facial recognition. Facial recognition is 10 times uh as big as it is in the UK than it is here in America. This place is bred for that, man. They got all their ducks in a row. And they're just knocking their dominoes down one by one. But little do they know, as they knock their dominoes down, they're knocking down the Most High's dominoes as well. Saki, because he is not going to allow them to fully come into their enterprise. Okay, it says bills like California's AB 626, local health officers, communicable diseases. It says it gives power to the officials to act but to act, it says, but excessively, or so they can overdo it. None of that appears in HR 6666, but so much money directed at such a vague objective without proper direction and oversight is just begging for trouble. So certain portions of AB 626, and this is already in law in California, says gives officials a virtual blank check and are causing civil liberty advocates heartburn, such as the bill would authorize the local health officers to issue orders and to give governmental entities within local health officers' jurisdiction to take any action the local health officer deems necessary to control the spread of communicable diseases. Now, the key phrase in there is any action that they deem necessary. I work for a bank, and you can have your account restricted where you don't have access to your money for X amount of days for any action that they deem necessary. So if you do something suspicious, you agree that for any reason that they deem necessary, they can do that to your account. And what they're saying with this bill, if they deem it necessary that you are a possible threat and you may have uh, came in contact with or you could spread a communicable disease, they can take any action that they want, which shit could include shooting you down, which could include hemming you up and throwing you in a concentration camp. Anything that they deem necessary. And that's what's scary about this. Not scary to us because we have Yahweh Shem Shai on our side. But these people, these people are going to be afraid. It says definition of emergency is quite nebulous. Many people don't know that, and this is what I was talking about earlier, that some World War II emergency orders are still in effect, which emergencies specifically activate or justify continuation of this bill still apply and when will they end? Okay, there is no firm end date for declared federal and CA states of emergency for the COVID-19 pandemic. All right, there's no end date. So if they start up this bill and they say, okay, well, we can, come in your house and test you for COVID-19 if we deem it necessary. But, you know, if this place was to go on 10 years down the line, they can still do that to you because it's a law in effect. There's no end date on it. They're not saying, well, once the pandemic is over, this law goes into non effect or it goes out of place. No, there's no cap to it. Okay? It says, not even formal review dates or procedures. Government has a disturbing tendency to keep emergency declarations, which usually have no legislative vote uh, authorizing them, in effect long after they are truly needed, if ever so. So even if they ever need it, and long after it's already been on the books, they can still enact it, which is why I referenced the NDAA Act of 2012 still being relevant, because once it's been passed, they can always go back and say that this is the reason why we're doing this. It's already on legislation, basically. I'm getting towards the end. There's a couple more um, points that I want to make. So that number right there is 100 billion. It says those are billions per year. Seriously, it says that is a staggering amount of money for the apparent objective. That's at least 1 trillion over 10 years. The scale of pervasiveness that such funding would buy and would surely be fully spent, and even more it asks for, is stunning. Okay, going back to what I was speaking earlier, man, they can write a blank check for some of these, $100 billion a year, $1 trillion over 10 years. Where's all this money coming from? They're making it out of thin air. So what's that going to do? That's going to crash the economy. That's going to lead to the mark of the beast. Okay, it's going to lead to hyperinflation first, and then that's going to lead to them bringing in this new currency, this digital currency or cryptocurrency, whatever they want to call it, whatever they want to relay it as. But it's ushering the market of beast. Ultimately, man, that's the main point. So let's get this next scripture. All right, so this is Habakkuk chapter 2. Um, I'm gonna just nope. Well, yeah, let's just get it all. This is Habakkuk chapter 2:2. It says, "And the Lord answered me and said, Write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it." Okay, and this is the vision. This is the vision. This is the prophecy that we're speaking of, man. We're talking about it right now. I'm making it plain upon tables for you, because all this has been spoken by the holy prophets of the past, and we're speaking it and bringing life into it now, making it plain to you. It says, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. That will tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry." Okay, then that appointed time for this vision is right now. We see this vision, with our own eyes, and we we're living it. Okay, but this is not the end. But wait for it, because the end is coming soon. Is nearer than what we believed. It says, "Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith." All right, that's talking about the so-called white man. His soul which is lifted up. Or he's a high-minded individual, but he's not upright, man. He's not a righteous man. All right, it says, "But the just shall live by his faith." Right? We have faith that the Most High Yahweh Shem Yashai is going to come back and he's going to rescue us out of this situation. It says, "Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth to him all people, and that's what he's trying to do with this um, RFID chip, the mark of the beast. It says he's a problem and he never keepeth at home. He's in everyone's country. That's why his army is so thin. That's why America and Rome are parallel to each other. It's the reincarnation. Everything is just happening over and over again, which is more technology out now. That's the only difference. Okay, it says, shall not all these take up a parable against them and a taunting proverb against them, and say, woe unto him that increaseth that which is not his? How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. Now that thick clay is talking about debt. Okay, we got the debt clock. It's running right now as we speak, and it's up in the 20 trillion. And now they're doing, like I said before, the stimulus. They're doing bailouts. They're bailing out small businesses. They're talking about doing a round two, giving everybody $2,000 a month. You know, all this money got to come from somewhere, and it's not doing anything but weakening the economy. And when that economy breaks, you better believe that they got a plan to tax the people, man. They got a backup plan, and that's to usher in this market to be system, this RFID system. So, I mean, we here, y'all. We are here. We're not where we need to be, but we need to really be prepared for everything that we've been speaking on to come to pass shortly. This is definitely the year of prophecy, man. It's been being fulfilled, you know, since January 1st. And every month, it's been building up and getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, man. So look forward to some real things to happen for the rest of this year. We're not even halfway through. It says, while some of the hysterical interpretations of 6666 are over the top, it places no real scope restraints and is poorly defined, and there is no firm set date. All red flags. Okay? It's red flags all over this place. Like, there's something wrong. How are you gonna really enforce this? Because you can enforce it however you want to. All right, it's not specific enough. It doesn't say what you can and what you can't do. It says finally, the bill number seems to be mocking the people. It's like it says 6666 filed on May Day. Really? It's probably no coincidence. Okay? Because like I said before, it's referencing 666. And it's also was filed on May Day, on May 1st. So these people know what they're doing, and they love to put it in front of your face because you have somebody like me, a potential man of the Lord. I believe I'm a man of the Lord, a prophet. As well as a so-called conspiracy theorist. And people will say, and of not just us, but other people, they'll say, "Hey, well, look, this bill is 6666. I'm not messing with that." But then you got your other people that be like, "Oh no, that's not what it is. That's not what it means." And you're because there's always going to be a tit for a tat. There's always those people out there who scoff and that gainsay. Okay, it says the silence of the so-called mainstream media on this bill of such important with its obvious potential for abuse is deafening, because you don't see this on CNN, you don't see this on Fox, you don't see this on Channel 7 at 9 o'clock. How come the media isn't covering this? It says we could find a SMM reference to. We couldn't find a SMM reference to this $100 billion a year bill anywhere in the first 10 pages of a Google search, and that's disturbing. So they tried to Google, $100 billion a year bill, and they couldn't find one prior to this article because it's a gag order on this, man. They're not putting this in the mainstreams because they don't want people to know. Okay, but that's the job of the prophets and people who are in alternative media, the quote unquote um, conspiracy nuts or conspiracy theorists. That's all of our job to put this information out, or mainly as a man of the Lord to feed the people. Okay, so I believe that's all the um, yeah, that's all the scriptures that I had. And it's an article, pretty good article. I'm gonna put the article in the well. I just read the whole article, but I'll definitely put the link um to the actual bill itself in the description box. With that being said, give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh by Shem Yahushai, by Shem Karkadash. Their honors to the apostles and elders of GMS. Salutes and honors to the elect. All the brothers across the four corners who are enduring in truth and sincerity, and the women and children who follow. Shalom.